Hello and good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're watching News at 10. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Expectant and nursing mothers can now register or update their information on the MySejahtera app, and the suitable vaccine will be given to them. National COVID-19 Immunization Program (PICK) Coordinating Minister Khairy Jamaluddin today said in his tweet the appointments for these women would be given according to the suitable vaccine. He added that for those who do not use the MySejahtera app, they can call the PICK hotline. Khairy said users are now able to update their pregnancy or breastfeeding status under the COVID-19 vaccination tab. Next, users would be prompted to fill in details such as their expected due dates and whether they are breastfeeding. On 25th May, Khairy said a new feature will be available on the MySejahtera app to enable pregnant and lactating mothers to register for vaccination. However, he reminded them to consult their doctors before deciding to get vaccinated. Small-time hawkers in local authority PBT areas who have obtained hawker permits, whether permanent or temporary, do not need to get approval through the COVID-19 Intelligent Management System (CIMS) of the Ministry of International Trade and Industry (MITI) to ply their trade during the Movement Control Order MCO 3.0 period. The Ministry of Housing and Local Government KPKT in a statement today said these roadside hawkers only need to show the hawker permit issued by local authority, and it is effective immediately and applies throughout the MCO 3.0 period from 1st until 14th June. However, KPKT said the permission to do business only applies to these hawkers and not for hawkers at farmers markets, weekly markets and night markets. KPKT said the roadside hawkers given permission to operate and move across a district have to comply with the SOP set by the National Security Council (MKN) and the Ministry of Health. The government had earlier announced that the MITI would act as the central ministry to process applications from companies providing essential services to operate during the MCO 3.0 period. The Health Ministry reported 7,703 new COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, bringing the cumulative total in the country to 587,165. According to its Director General, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, only 2 of them were import cases, while the remaining were all local transmissions. Selangor remains the state with the highest number of new cases recorded at 2,728, followed by Kuala Lumpur with 701 new cases and Sarawak 558 cases. Meanwhile, 5,777 cases recovered and were discharged yesterday, bringing the total number of recoveries up to 501,898, equivalent to an 85.48% recovery rate. Following this development, the number of active cases in Malaysia currently stands at 82,274. From the number, 878 of them are currently being treated in intensive care units, with 441 requiring respiratory aid. The Health Ministry also reported 126 new COVID-19 fatalities in the last 24 hours, and the death toll in the country rose to 2,993 deaths. The contributions of civil servants through the cut in their Fixed Entertainment Allowance (ITK) and Fixed Public Service Allowance (ITKA) prove their solidarity with the government in fighting COVID-19. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the solidarity also reflects the civil servants' support to the struggles of the frontliners who had been working tirelessly to curb and protect the public from being infected by the coronavirus. The Premier said the contribution of the civil servants, excluding the frontliners and those in grade 1 to 28, will be channeled to the COVID-19 Disaster Trust Fund. The Prime Minister also prayed that all civil servants nationwide will continue to be under God's protection, regardless of their roles in fighting COVID-19. Yesterday, Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, announced that the contributions from over 800,000 civil servants were estimated to be more than 30 million ringgit. Media practitioners, especially the editorial team, play important roles to prevent the dissemination of fake news and providing feedback for the government. This includes suggestions related to strategic communication strategies that could help to improve the information dissemination system to the rakyat during this pandemic time. Towards this, Communications and Multimedia Minister Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah stressed media practitioners must help curb the spread of sensitive message that could instigate hatred among community members, such as those that criticize the monarchy institution, religion or racial issues.
Making, meaning we are hoping that they play, and I know some of them are playing this role already, not just reporting and sharing knowledge, but also to give the government feedback, because they're very close to their audiences. Feedback as to what we have done right and what we have done wrong, whether our communication strategy is proper, and so on. Also to give us inputs and ideas as to how do we move to the next phase in the things that we do.
Datuk Saifuddin was speaking during a ministerial-level virtual conference entitled Media Roles in Disseminating Info During Pandemic, hosted by Asia Pacific Broadcast Development Institute. The conference was also joined by ministers from Philippines, Cambodia, Bangladesh and Nigeria. Shopee Pay recorded an overwhelming uptake of about 500,000 claimants for the 150 ringgit e-wallet credit on the first day of the e-Belia program yesterday. In a statement, Shopee Pay Malaysia Head Alliance Yi said the successful claimants not only received e-wallet credit when they claimed by Shopee Pay, but also guaranteed an additional 500 ringgit worth of vouchers, bringing the total benefit up to 650 ringgit. Yi said he believed the program would play a bigger role in simultaneously generating economic activities and sales for local merchants and traders while alleviating the financial burden of Malaysian youths and promoting cashless spending. He said this digital push will be a win for the country's digital economy. The e-Belia program is open for registration to Malaysians aged 18 to 20 years in 2021 or full-time students enrolled in courses equivalent to diploma or Malaysian skills certificate level 4 and above at local public and private registered institutions of higher learning. All loan borrowers who have suffered a drop in income, including salary, allowances, commissions and household incomes, are eligible for a reduction of monthly installment according to the reduced income. BNM today clarified that under the latest loan repayment assistance, the B40 recipients of Bantuan Sara Hidup, Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat can choose either a 3-month moratorium or reduction of monthly installments by 50% for 6 months. The central bank also pointed out that for facilities with approved amounts of up to 150,000 ringgit, micro enterprises as well as small and medium enterprises which are not allowed to operate during the lockdown can also choose either a 3-month moratorium or reduction of monthly installment by 50% for 6 months. 42 cattle imported from Thailand were found positive with lumpy skin disease, LSD, following lab tests at the Veterinary Public Health Laboratory, MKAV, and Clinical Science. The amount is part of the 1,434 cattle quarantined before being allowed into the country since 26 April. The Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services Markis explained that they are currently monitoring 2 quarantine stations, one in Bukit Kayu Hitam, Kedah, and another in Kelantan, at which the cattle are kept. The latest orders issued by MKAV instructed Markis to extend the quarantine duration from 14 days to 28 days in order to properly monitor the imported cattle. This is to prevent an outbreak of the disease, which is feared to be able to spiral out of control and affect the country's ruminant industry. All LSD positive cattle have been detained and quarantined with strict monitoring. LSD is an infectious disease caused by the poxviridae virus that affect cows, buffaloes, and other specific wild ruminant animals. It is transmitted via insect bites such as mosquitoes and flies. ECRL Terowong Dungun breaks through 6 months ahead of schedule. Melaka Police Contingent has crippled a drug smuggling syndicate with the arrest of 6 individuals, including a Vietnamese, during a raid at Pantai Klebang. Its police chief, Dato' Abdul Majid Muhammad Ali, said about 83 kg of methamphetamine and 59 kg of ecstasy worth about 7.2 million ringgit were found in the suspect's vehicle. Explaining further, Dato' Abdul Majid, the syndicate have been using fake interstate travel permits to transport the drugs to Melaka before finally smuggled out of the country by water routes.
Hasil daripada tindakan operasi ini, pihak polis telah berjaya menahan 5 lelaki Cina tempatan dan 1 perempuan Vietnam berumur antara 25 ke 52 tahun. Kesemua suspek ni disiasat di bawah Seksyen 39B Akta Dadah 1952.
Dato' Abdul Majid said police also seized 2 cars, petty cash, jewellery and watches, all worth about 64,078 ringgit. He added that all suspects tested positive for methamphetamine and they are currently being remanded for 7 days. The East Coast Rail Link ECRL project recorded another major milestone as it achieved a tunnel breakthrough at the 871 metres single-bore Terowong Dungun in Terengganu. According to Malaysia Rail Link Sendirian Berhad MRL Chairman Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, the tunnel was completed 6 months ahead of schedule. The overall infrastructure works for the tunnel is expected to be completed by the second quarter of 2022, month ahead of schedule, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki said this is despite the COVID-19 pandemic effectively reducing work hours and manpower at project sites. Terowong Dungun was constructed to avoid major open cutting and to maintain forest reserves across Kuala Dungun. The ECRL project in its entirety has 58 tunnels encompassing different length and landscape to constructed along various sections of its 665-kilometre rail alignment. ECRL will traverse the east coast states of Kelantan, Terengganu and Pahang before linking the Klang Valley on the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia, significantly cutting travel time and connecting Kota Baru with ITT Gombak in approximately 4 hours. In our foreign segment, disaster feared as fire hit cargo ship sinks off Sri Lanka coast. A cargo ship carrying tons of chemicals is sinking off Sri Lanka's west coast, the country's government and Navy said, in one of Sri Lanka's worst ever marine disasters. The Singapore-registered MV Express Pearl, carrying 1,486 containers, including 25 tons of nitric acid, along with other chemicals and cosmetics, was anchored off the island's west coast when a fire erupted on 20th May. Authorities had been battling the blaze since then, with flaming containers laden with chemicals falling from the ship's deck. The Navy had said it was extinguished on yesterday. The country's fisheries minister, Kanchana Wajisekera, said in a tweet that the salvage company involved in the Express Pearl has indicated that the vessel is sinking at the current position. Experts said tons of plastic pellets have swamped the island's coastline and rich fishing grounds, creating one of the biggest environmental crises faced in decades. The government has banned fishing along the 80-kilometre stretch of coast, affecting 5,600 fishing boats, while hundreds of soldiers have been deployed to clean the beach. Vijay Kasira added that the salvage crew is towing the vessel to deeper water. Iran's largest Navy ship, the Karg, sank today after catching fire in the Gulf of Oman, but the crew were safely rescued. No further explanation was given for the latest incident in a region of sensitive waterways where there have been accusations of attacks on ships owned by arch-enemies Iran and Israel. State TV said the fire on Iran's highest tonnage naval vessel started around 2:25 a.m. today near the Iranian port of Jask, where it was on training mission. The Gulf of Oman connects to the Strait of Hormuz, where about a fifth of the world's oil passes. Rescue operations for the cargo went on for hours with all the crew disembarking. In April, Iran said one of its vessels, the Savis, had been targeted in the Red Sea after media reports the ship had been attacked with limpet mines. That came after Israel and Iran had blamed each other for a series of reported attacks on cargo ships since late February. The shipping incidents have occurred since US President Joe Biden took office in January, pledging to rejoin Iran's 2015 nuclear containment deal with 6 world powers, abandoned by his predecessor Donald Trump in a move welcomed by Israel if Tehran returns to full compliance with the accord. One person was killed and 16 others were injured as tornado hit a suburban area in Harbin, capital city of northeast China, Heilongjiang province yesterday. The injured are receiving treatment at the hospital with one in serious condition. Between 5:30 and 6 p.m. yesterday, the tornado, along with hail, hit Shaanxi County level city with 4 local townships being affected. It was reported that the tornado had damaged 168 houses and ravaged through farmlands as of this morning. A total of 243 villagers have been evacuated, and the economic loss was primarily estimated at 5.12 million yuan, or about $795,400 US. According to the local railway department, train services of 6 railway lines were delayed due to the extreme weather, but resumed operation this morning. Relief work are still underway, with excavators being deployed to clear debris to ensure the arrival of supplies in time. The World Health Organization (WHO) has validated the CoronaVac COVID-19 vaccine developed by Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinovac Biotech for emergency use. Through a statement released, the WHO said it recommends the vaccine for use in people 18 years and older and a 2-dose schedule with a spacing of 2 to 4 weeks, according to a statement. According to the WHO's Strategic Advisor Group of Experts on Immunization, the efficacy results show that the Sinovac vaccine prevented symptomatic disease in 51% of those vaccinated and prevented severe COVID-19 and hospitalization in 100% of the studied population. However, as few people over 60 years old were enrolled in clinical trials, the WHO said the Sinovac vaccine's efficacy could not be estimated in this age group. As in the cases of previously validated vaccines, WHO recommends that countries using the Sinovac vaccine in older age groups conduct safety and effectiveness monitoring to verify the expected impact and contribute to making the recommendation more robust for all countries. The Sinovac vaccine is the second one from China that has been included in WHO emergency use listing following the Sinopharm vaccine, which was validated earlier last month. Apart from the 2 Chinese vaccines, the WHO has previously listed the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer-BioNTech, 2 versions of AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, the Janssen vaccine, and the Moderna vaccine for emergency use. Australia's Victoria State today extended a snap COVID-19 lockdown for a second week in Melbourne in a bid to contain an outbreak of the highly contagious virus strain first detected in India, but will ease some restrictions in other regions. Victoria, Australia's second most populous state, was plunged into lockdown last Thursday, initially until 3rd June after the first locally acquired cases were detected in 3 months. Infections rose steadily and close contacts reached several thousand. 6 new locally acquired cases were reported today versus 9 a day earlier, taking the total infections in the latest outbreak to 60.
So we have right now 60 cases and over 350 exposure sites and a variant of the virus that is quicker and more contagious than we have ever seen before. The best way to stop this virus is via vaccination. But as we know, only 2% of our population is fully vaccinated. If we let this thing run its course, it will explode. We've got to run this to ground, because if we don't, people will die.
Snap lockdowns, regional border restrictions and tough social distancing rules have largely helped Australia to suppress all prior outbreaks and keep its COVID-19 numbers relatively low at just over 30,100 cases and 910 deaths. Coming up in sports, Ancelotti returns to Real for a second spell as coach. The Selangor FC squad is expected to return to camp-based training starting next week in preparations for the remainder of the Super League competition this season, following the permission from the government and the Malaysian Football League MFL for teams to undergo training through a quarantine approach during the first phase of the total lockdown. The Red Giants squad will be given training by staying at a hotel in Shah Alam. The club's chief executive officer, Dr. Johan Kamal Hamidon, said that for the moment, it is okay if they can't have a friendly match, but it's important that training continues. He said that if he remains confident that after the lockdown is over, a friendly match can be arranged before the league resumes next month. After 13 games this season, Selangor FC sit in 5th place with 19 points. Meanwhile, Johan said his party was also working with the Petaling Jaya City Council, MBPJ, to improve the quality of the pitch at the MBPJ Stadium after playing the first half of the season with subpar field conditions. The national squad's main goalkeeper, Muhammad Farizal Malias, has vowed to learn from his mistakes and show better performance if he is given the opportunity to play in the match against the United Arab Emirates UAE on Thursday, admitting the fact that he was little careless during the 2-0 defeat to Bahrain last Friday. The 34-year-old experienced goalkeeper said he would continue to work hard to improve his game. He said, however, he remained as motivated as ever and he was confident that he would be able to shoulder the responsibility in the second round of the 2022 World Cup, 2023 Asian Cup qualifiers.
Kita perlu lebih disiplin lah dari segi defending, dan itu ialah yang kita perlu terapkan untuk game akan datang, kerana apabila half chance dia akan beliau boleh menjadikan gol. Jadi untuk saya juga, saya harus prepare dari segi benda-benda perkara yang macam tu lah.
He said this during a virtual press conference from Dubai. Ahead from the match against the in-form UAE, who are ranked 73rd in the world, the Johor Darul Takzim JDT star said he believed in the presence of several new players, including Dion Koos of FC Midtjylland, would be able to block the opponents from scoring. After the match against the UAE on Thursday, Malaysia will continue their qualifying campaign against Vietnam on 11th June and Thailand 15th June. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, pregnant breastfeeding moms now have more options for COVID-19 vaccination. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Stay tuned to saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.